Hi, this is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 78. And how we're going to talk today about how pulling chest voice messes up your voice. So I wanted to welcome you in our pre-show today. I'm just getting started now, about 5 minutes before our actual show begins. So I wanted to make sure that everyone can hear me and see me who joins the broadcast today. So how is everyone doing? It's a beautiful day in the Intermountain West of the United States, in the lovely state of Utah, and we have a very beautiful spring day with temperatures in the mid 60s and close to 70. Hey, Berno Inferno, hi, how you doing? Thank you very much. Glad to know the sound and the video is on and working. So, what's up with you, Berno? I just wanted to, so the question of the day is, have you ever injured your voice? Nice to see you too. Yupadios, hi. Have any of you injured your voice? I want to talk a bit about some vocal injuries. Um, Let me know in the comments section, yes or no. Have you injured your voice? I have, and so I have had some experience with this. But I'd like to think that I didn't injure it because I was necessarily singing wrong. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So today's topic is really interesting from the standpoint of it's very common. Roseanne, hey, how you doing? Uh, so Fernie, I guess is that where you live, Fernie? I don't know if I remember the name of your city up there. So a lot of a lot of very famous singers whose names you all recognize have had problems so severe with their voices that they had to have surgery on it. So we're going to talk a bit about that today, some of the damage that can be caused by pulling the chest voice up. It's not just a it's it's not a casual thing. It is something that can really cause some problems, and and it can be career ending. It's just and it's getting worse. I think it's actually getting worse rather than better. So um, anyway, hello, Punit Kumar. Nice to have you here today. I've got to guess that you're someplace in Asia, and it's probably in the middle of the night there. So thank you for joining. Hi, Dana. Nice to have you with us. I think she says, I think I've injured my voice from singing wrong for so long. Yeah, so we're going to talk a bit about some of the things that might you might hear in your voice that it signals some damage. Um, Linda said, I've just finished the vocal exercises taught by you. Well, okay. Well, I hope hope it went well for you. Thank you. India, Punit. So, India there, Punit, was probably about what, 1:30 a.m. or something like that. Thank you for joining us. That means a lot. 1:32 a.m. Wow, great. Well, nice to have you here today. Roseanne says I damaged as well. It took a while to come back, but it did. Uh, Altu, hello, the bridge. Nice to have you with us today, Altu. Altu, it's got to be late where you're at too. I can't remember the time difference there, but it's got to be late at night. So, you guys, we're going to talk about things that we're all interested in here. None of us want to have damaged voices. We want to have good, strong voices. The thing I'm facing right now is reflux, and I'm taking medication for reflux. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with pulled chest, high larynx, but it does have to, it does have, the impact on our voices, and the the damage we suffer from pulled chest, high larynx in many cases is kind of similar to this reflux. So Puna says, your efforts bring me here. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Okay, so we are about a minute away from getting started officially. Bless Benson. Hey, Benson, nice to have you here today. Don't recognize your handle. So is this your first time, Benson? Let me know. Anybody else here for the first time? I think everybody else I recognize here. So this is 11 p.m. The bridge. Not too bad. Late. Not too bad though. So, this is something that can be career ending, this pulled chest and the subsequent things that can happen. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it today and talk about the vocal, a little bit more about the vocal type pulled chest. And we usually say pulled chest, high larynx. They're not exactly the same, but they do coincide. Subia, yay, Subia, nice to have you with us. So Subia, do you stay up until 1:30 or do you set your alarm and wake up at 1:30? Subia's also in India, I believe. Jet, nice to have you here. One sign that I'm pulling chest too high is if it's hard to sing. Okay, he said if it's hard to sing in falsetto afterwards. Dan, hi Dan, nice to have you here. First time, awesome. Nice to have you with us today. Thank you. And thank you for your comments in Facebook. So let's talk a little about it. Let me just welcome you. This is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 78, how pulled chest messes up the voice. So how pulling chest voice messes up your voice. And this is something that's serious. And it's not just it's one reason, of course, why we don't teach or don't encourage singers to pull their chest voice or have the high larynx when they sing. But it is a major factor for a lot of different reasons. So hi to you stay up, Subia. You're so nice. Thank you for joining us. Ink, hi Ink. Hey, sometimes when I'm home alone, I can sing up to A4. When I'm at home with someone, I have to lower the volume and I can only go up so F to F4, F sharp 4. Why is this? I can only guess that it's easier to pull chest if you sing louder. So Punit says, today when I was doing Brady Nays and other exercises, I was feeling strain in my throat when I was hitting the high notes. What should I do? Strain or compression? It's hard to know without exactly hearing what you're doing. So since we're talking about pulled chest, high larynx, if I'm doing a Brady Nay and I say, nay, 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 that's going to be strain because my larynx is coming up and I'm pulling the chest voice up. But if I say, nay, 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 that's very different. Now, if I'm not used to having any compression at all, that might feel like strain. But we've got to have some, just something that feels friendly. So Mr. Riggs sometimes refers to this as friendly compression. Nay, 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 nay. And if you're doing it that way, that's not a problem. It's just that you're not used to it. If you're doing it something different, then perhaps you need to try and get it more towards the way I just demonstrated it. So it's hard to know for sure, Punit, without actually hearing it. But that's just some advice there. Patricia, hi, good day, sir. Why is it every time I sing I can feel pain in the throat? Is it dangerous? Patricia, you should not feel any pain when you sing. And so the first recommendation I have is to go see an ENT doctor, ear, nose, and throat doctor, and have him scope and take a look at your vocal cords. There should be no pain when you sing. There should be no pain when you speak. Are you feeling pain when you speak? Is the question. It felt, Punit says, I felt like somebody was stopping me from hitting those notes. Um, yeah, you know, if the larynx comes up in my voice, if the larynx comes up and writes high, it does choke off the sound in my voice for sure. That's I can only guess. All right, let me get to some other things here about our topic today. Subia says, I used to pull my chest when I figured out that I'm not singing from the diaphragm and caused too much pressure on my larynx, pulling it up, then feeling tired. I'd asked this question in the pre-show. Let me ask you, those of you who have just joined me, have you ever injured or damaged your voice when you've been singing? Let me know in the comment section. It's really, I'll share with you my story. I had the worst sore throat in the world, and I got it was so bad that, and I don't want to gross you out, but it was bleeding. You know, it was so red and raw. There was blood, and so it was blood in my saliva. And I didn't want to swallow. I just as soon expectorate, spit. I didn't even want to swallow. It was so bad. And so I was in a show. I was performing in HMS Pinafore, which is an operetta, and I was one of the leads. I was Captain Cochran, and I had a G above middle C that I sang in the song. Wonderful song. Um, and I couldn't sing it. I couldn't vocalize. When I tried to vocalize, there was no sound. And so there were two of us playing every other night. So my counterpart had to take my show. It's the only show I've missed ever in 21 years of doing theater, and I hate missing. I hated it. I hated missing. I don't even miss rehearsals if I can help it. Well, that was a Monday night. On a Wednesday night, I could hit the note. My throat was slightly better. It wasn't quite as severe, but I was still sore. I still had a sore throat. So I could still sing the G, but it hurt. But I didn't want to miss the show. So I took 4 Advil and I did the show. And for about the next, well, I finally went, I had this scratch in my voice. I had that, especially down low. Down in the lower register, I was always scratching. And that was something new to me. And so I went to see the doctor, and he said he did a scope, and there were nodules on the false chords. And I'm very sure that it was an evening of singing with a sick voice, taking all this medication, and there were multiple songs. I mean, I think Cochran has 3 or 4 numbers, one solo, all solo, periodic solos, and duets and things like that, and trios, and then choral numbers and things. And so at the end of the night, I had damaged my voice because I was singing sick. That's a way of damaging your voice. So let me ask you this question, you guys. What do these names have in common? Adele, Keith Urban, John Mayer, Meghan Trainor, Steven Tyler, Stevie Wonder, and there's a bunch more. What do they have in common? They've all had vocal damage. They've all had surgery. Now, this is something I got off of on the internet, so I'm trusting that my sources are good. I think it was from a physician's vlog or blog. And I've heard these. I know Adele's had several hemorrhages. Keith Urban, I know he's had surgery. John Mayer, I know he's had surgery. I'm quite sure Meghan Trainor, I think she had a hemorrhage. Steven Tyler, I know, has had multiple surgeries. So Stevie Wonder, I know. Yeah, so I can these have all had surgery. I know Stevie Wonder did because when Seth Riggs was starting his vocal instruction practice in LA many years ago, um, physician called him and asked him if he would rehabilitate this young boy, 19-year-old boy's voice, just had surgery, and his name was Stevie Wonder. And Seth Riggs rehabbed the voice post-operatively, and Stevie has never had a problem again. So, okay, so yeah, these do they pull chest? That's a good question. My guess is I know that Adele pulls chest. I know Keith Urban. I've got video of him pulling chest. I've got video of John Mayer pulling chest. Megan, I'm not sure about. Steve Tyler, I've got video of him pulling chest. And yes, Stevie Wonder was pulling chest. Okay, so let's just really be clear about this. One of the negative downsides of pulling chest is damage to the vocal cords. What exactly is pulling chest? It's your chest voice being pulled up too high. So that done repeatedly over and over again in performances will cause vocal damage. And you maybe you're not doing it that much. Maybe it's just 4 to 5 words in the chorus only, but the chorus is repeated 3 times, and maybe a couple in the bridge. So now we've got not just 4 or 5 times, but we've got 20 times in a night. And you multiply that times let's just say 10 songs. Now you've got 200 forms of abuse to the vocal cords. And then you multiply that times 3 nights a week or something like that. And now you've got 600 vocal incidences of vocal abuse or extravagance that is causing the voice to begin to fatigue. So this is what causes the duress and stress on the voice. Now, we don't exactly know the precise reason why or exactly what's happening. This is off of an ENT physician's website that said the exact cause is unknown, but it almost always arises from heavy vocal use, traumatic use, which could be including screaming and yelling, and or using the voice when you're sick, which was my problem. That's how I did it. I'm just glad I wasn't. The nodules were not on the actual focal folds, the actual cords. They were adjacent, just lateral to them on the location called the false cords. Okay, so let me see if I can greet a few other folks here, and then we'll press on. Annika, hi. Nice to have you with us today from, so I can't remember where you're from, in Russia someplace, or I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. Ken Becker, hi Ken, nice to have you here. Are we calling pain and strain the same thing? No, not necessarily. So there's pain. If you're feeling pain in your voice when you're using it, that's different than strain. Strain might lead to pain, but no, it's not a hurt. It's not hurting yet. It hurts, or you get pain after the damage is done. So let's talk about. Let me get back to that in a second, Ken. That's a really good question. Let me talk about some of the actual damage that occurs from the pull chest. I mentioned it briefly in my situation, and that is I had nodules on the false cords, but I want to get a little deeper into that. Patricia says no, she hasn't had any vocal damage, and let's keep it that way, right, Patricia? Puna says it was like the weight of a voice box is more, not sure exactly what that is. Okay, the bridge hasn't had any injury. Vibrato easily. Benson, there is, I got a couple videos at powertosing.com. Go to the Knowledge Center on the right-hand side. Or just go to the Knowledge Center and search vibrato, and you'll get a few videos about how to develop vibrato easily. Okay, powertosing.com. There's a new search icon there at the top. Search vibrato. All right, hey, Gianluca Morelli. Nice to have you here today. He said, a good day. I've had nodules once, about 10 years ago, due to excessive screaming. I'm a high larynx pull chest vocal type. A very good special SPL helped me. Good. I'd be, Gianluca, I would be really interested to find out how you felt. What was mentally going through your heart and mind when you had that when you had those nodules? Can you remember that? I mean, it's 10 years ago. Do you remember how you felt? Let me just hear. I'd really love to hear if you can remember what you were thinking and feeling at that time. Okay, so Lucas, hi Lucas from Brazil. Oh, great, good to see you, Lucas. For me, Lucas, for me to get a bridge without breaking, I need to exaggerate a bit in the use of the nasty sound, the witchy sound, the pharynx voice, pharyngeal voice. However, it is an artificial sound. How do I maintain a natural sound when passing through the bridge without breaking and without forcing? Sometimes what you've described is where you start. You just start there and you begin to develop the balanced voice, and so that you're not pulling chest with that witchy or nasty sound. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. You find that balance, you find that ease, but you gradually want to try and eliminate the exaggerated sound. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. I've got a little bit of, you can hear it going on today. But, so Lucas, I would say one of the things that would be of help is appropriate, trying to use that support from the diaphragm. So tummy out, air in, so it kind of fills up, feels like it's filling up down there. It's really not, but tummy comes out and you pull air in, or the air goes in through your lungs. And then as you're using your air, the diaphragm is pulled in slightly, gently. Your belly button kind of, you pull that in towards your back. So you're pulling it in, and that does seem to help sometimes. Now, the nice thing about that bratty sound, that nasty sound, is it's a little more firm, and you can kind of use that in songs if you have to. But you could also try it. I would try it with a bratty sound and say, no, 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 no. Do it on no, 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 and then try and go a little more normal. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Now, for me, and this kind of applies to what we're talking about today, everybody, because we're talking about not pulling chest. Now, you could feel that there's less weight in the voice. If I said, nay, 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 that would be pulling. But if I just went a little bit on that nasty side or witchy side, nay, 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 I'm reducing the volume. I'm not singing as loud. Nay, 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 nay. As a result, the vocal, there's a little more air passing through. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Or you can do it this way. Nay, 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 nay. Or nay, 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 nay. All of those you can do a little bit less loud, and that sometimes will help you balance it. Do it on another, do a little less ready. Nay, 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 nay. Or nay, 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 nay. When you start using other words, then you have to be careful not to spread the vowel, or the larynx comes up and then it gets starts to pull the chest voice up again. Subia says, should not yell. Exactly. Benson, so pulling chest is dangerous. What should I do to stop this, sir? Yes, pulling chest. Let me talk about what's dangerous about it. It's just like you're overusing it. It's going to, and here are some of the things that can happen. Vocal fatigue. You just feel tired. An unreliable voice means it doesn't start out right. It maybe cracks when you've never cracked before. You lose the ability to go from loud to soft, soft to loud, so your dynamics are curtailed. A low gravelly voice is another indication of injury. An airy or breathy voice. I've had a student who was kind of born with some nodules, and she's a young girl, and she had just this constant and so when she talked, she had this kind of like constant air leak all the time, and it was, I of course recommended to the parents that they go get a scope. Inability to sing high notes, to sing them high with any firmness, or to sing them high without, softly. It's just you lose control of your voice. Hoarseness. Yeah, so everyone's saying, Chuck, you must have some damage. What I'm working on is getting over this reflux. Frequent clearing. Yay, that's me. Extra force needed for the voice. Yes, so I admit right now I have to sing fairly strong in order to control. Fortunately, the song that I'm singing is big and strong. I don't have any finesse in the song, but one of the other indications that you've got some problems is you can't sing from loud to soft, soft to loud, and I don't know if I can or not right now. Let me see. Ma 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 ma. It's a little bit scratchy. I can feel it, but I'm not altogether trashed, so I'm glad about that. Now, let's talk about some of the other actual physical damage to the voice. Let's talk about that in a second, such as polyps and things. They're called lesions. We're going to talk about lesions. Subia says strain happens when we lack breath support. It can, Subia. It's not the cause of it necessarily, but it doesn't help. Usually strain is more about what we're talking about today, pulling the chest voice too high. But you can minimize some of that chest pulling if you add some of the help of the diaphragm. The bridge says to do wider vowels like O and ah help us to get deeper into the chord structure. So Altu, if you think of it on a like just going from left to right, let's say, oo would be your most closed vowel, oo, and then ou is your next most narrow or closed vowel. So O is on more of the I would weight it more towards a closed vowel. Ah, on the other hand, is quite open. It's on the other end of the spectrum. And so, but to answer your question, the more open vowel does have a tendency to move us more to a chest-like coordination. So yes, the answer is yes. It can help you get deeper into the chord structure. Of course, the caveat, the danger is that you don't want to open the vowel too wide. Now, that's what O may feel like it's an open vowel or a more wide vowel because some people sing it, oh, they spread the vowel as they go higher because they don't know how to bridge. Ollie says, hey, can I get vibrato in my falsetto? I can get vibrato in my falsetto, but I can't get any in my chest voice. I've watched your videos on it, and although you're great, I still can't get it. Any more tips? Well, Ollie, I think it'd be interesting to hear it, just hear you come down. Oh, oh, and come down half a step at a time, and just to hear where does it stop, and see, if it's at the bridge or below the bridge or what have you. I don't have an answer for it, but we obviously have to have vibrato in chest, in middle, or mix, and in head voice. I don't teach falsetto, but if you're referring to the head voice as falsetto, we need to have it up there. So I would probably, I'm just going to have to say there's probably something that's imbalanced on the way down that tends to stop it up. Dana says, my voice isn't strong enough. I find I can pull chest to give myself power. I know it's wrong to do, but it's the only way I can give dynamics to my performance. Dana, this is a real problem because when we start taking lessons and we start feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't get any power unless I belt it, then it slows our progress down because how are you going to develop your voice to have strength with just the vocal cords themselves when we keep relying on these extrinsic muscles? I've been there. I know what you're saying. And you just do it loud and hard because you have to perform, you have to do it. And that's a challenge. But you've got to allow yourself time in practicing and time in developing your voice to sound weak to yourself. It may be stronger than you think, but to ourselves, it sounds, because we get into our mix, into our head voice by not pulling chest, it sounds weaker and wimpier to us. It may not be that way to the listener. I would recommend, Dana, I use this MP3 Tascam, and what's helped me in the past is record myself singing, record myself practicing, record myself on the piano going up and down and so forth to see if by working on my mixed voice or my head voice, I really do sound that weak. I remember one time doing this and I was pleasantly surprised and genuinely surprised to hear that it wasn't nearly as weak as I thought. But if we keep, reverting back to our old habits, it's really hard to develop new ones. Really hard to develop new ones. It just doesn't happen automatically. So you have to kind of live with some feeling of, you feel like you're taking a step back. You're not. It just feels that way. Um, okay. Berno says that's a great example. Sorry, I can't remember, Berno, now what I was, whether you're referring to something I said or not. Anyway, so let me just talk about a couple specifics here about injuries to the vocal folds. Generally, the general name is called a lesion. That usually means some kind of disruption of some sort. In this case, it's disruption of the vocal cord, the vocal folds. Those terms are used interchangeably. And the disruption could be something like a nodule. A nodule is like a little blister. If it's a hard blister, or if it's a hard nodule, it's kind of like a callus. And usually the nodules are bilateral, meaning that if these were the vocal folds here on the edge of the vocal cord, it'd be one here and one exactly opposite, bilaterally. And so they appear on both sides, on this side and on this side on the edge, usually in about a third of the way up, I think it said. And so that's a nodule. There's another thing called a polyp. A polyp is similar, I think, to that nodule, except it only appears on one side. And isn't that interesting? It only appears on one side of the vocal cord. Another injury or another lesion is called a cyst. S-Y-S-T, cyst. And that it's a firm mass of tissue within a membrane or a sac. And that firm mass can be like a gelatinous substance. It can be kind of squishy, or it could be firm. It could be hard. And usually it's according to the thing I just read, usually it's below the surface of the vocal cord. Sometimes it can be deep into the cord structure, and sometimes it can be near the surface of the cord structure. So it can be near the surface or deeper. Generally, it's treated by surgery. They remove it by surgery. The nodules and the polyps will sometimes resolve themselves by having vocal rest. If the nodules have become calloused, then sometimes they can only be you can only get help by having them removed surgically. And nobody wants to have surgery on their vocal cords. I don't. I used to work in surgery, folks. 26 years in surgery. And having been in surgery for 26 years, I know that I never want to have surgery. Why? Well, no matter how good the repair is, it's never as good as new. So I shouldn't say that, because in some young athletes, they get an ACL repair and they go through a year or so of rehab, and they can get back out there and perform. But I still don't think it's as good as new. That is, as if you'd never had the injury in the first place. We're talking about prevention. We want to prevent injury to our voices. The other injury that it can occur is called a hemorrhage, and a hemorrhage is basically a blood vessel that's ruptured in the vocal cord itself. You can see it. It looks like you can see the blood vessels. And I have a friend who had that happen. And he was a teacher, fellow teacher, and he was kind of a talkative individual, and he tended to talk in a higher register, kind of a higher pitch. So he didn't have a heavy voice, and I think he'd been lecturing. He was also like a lay preacher or something, and would go and lecture and teach on, periodically throughout the week, and then he would teach all day and did some singing, and he felt it kind of like he felt it one day, and then he kind of like lost his ability to use his voice. It's almost like a very severe bruise. Imagine being bruised anywhere on your body and have it not only just be purple, but it start to bleed. The rupture of a bruise is what? I think they're a rupture of the vessels beneath the surface. And in many cases, a hemorrhage of the vocal folds, one of those little blood vessels comes up and bleeds, actually on the surface. Those are almost always treated by surgery. In the case of my friend, he worked with Seth Riggs, and Seth rehabilitated it, and it became a case study. The vessel that had kind of externalized went back into the vocal fold. Very, very rare case. So anyway, Adele has had 2 hemorrhages now, and they can be so severe and so scary. I asked earlier if I can't remember who it was now. If Okay, it's Gianluca Morelli says, "Well, yes, I can remember exactly how I felt. I just couldn't sing properly anymore. I constantly used to break my voice, and it got very, very frustrated. No clarity, zero performance. You know what? And when you go through something like that, you begin to just treasure your voice. You just don't you want to care for it because you suddenly realize what would happen if I just lost the function of my voice. Now, if you're a mega star, it can cost you millions of dollars in lost performances. And if you lose your career early, then how many millions and millions and millions of dollars, plus the fulfillment of, of meeting your fans and meeting their expectations and entertaining and so forth, which is such a big part of all of our lives who like to sing. We like to entertain, we like to sing, use our voices, and so it can be my friend that I mentioned. It was very depressing, very concerning. For him, it was like a change of a career also because he was a teacher and he thought he may have to retire. He didn't. Once he got his voice worked out and the lesion, the hemorrhaged vessel actually began to retract into the vocal fold, and he began to get full use again of it. It was such a blessing, and very, very fortunate. So I'm talking about this because there's more than one reason why we don't want to pull the chest voice. I think it sounds better to not pull chest, and I teach you how to do that. And one of the ways I teach you how to do that is by understanding your vocal type. And several of you have mentioned, what your vocal type is. If you don't know your vocal type, and if you're just watching this as a rebroadcast, many of you have joined today already know. But in the description down below this video, after it posts, it might be there now. There's a thing that says get your vocal type. It's a free PDF, and it's got links to a vocal test. It's got links to every vocal type, including pulled chest, high larynx. It'll tell you what it is. It'll give you examples of vocal exercises you can use to counteract that tendency to pull chest. And there's a video of professional singers who pull their chest voice, and several of them are some of these I mentioned: Keith Urban, Steven Tyler, Adele, of professionals who pull chest, who also have had surgeries. And so it's a really interesting PDF. It'll save you lots of time. You can download that for free and find out what your vocal type is and learn about it and get exercises. You can download free exercises for you to practice and to help you. Okay, thanks, Gianluca. I appreciate you sharing your feelings when you had that injury. Hey, George, nice to have you here. Um, okay, Lang says, I didn't tell you earlier where I'm from. You're right, from Russia, somewhere in Serbia is where you live. Great, awesome. Must be late there. So thank you. So great to have you. Sylvia says, does nay exercise controls to help to control the pull chest high larynx? Well, Subia, it thins. It thins it takes some of the weight of the voice out. If I said, nay, 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 nay. So that little exaggeration there takes some of the weight of the chord structure, it reduces it in some way so that we're not pulling up the weight. So that little pharyngeal sound helps eliminate the thickness, the heaviness of the voice. And it just, you can sing it. You could actually sing with that if you needed to, with that bratty little witchy sound, and you're not going to damage your voice. So it does help to control or eliminate the pull. I don't know about twangy. I'm not sure how to address that. Marnix, hi. Vandershoot. I'm still working on bridging, and in the bridge, my voice is rather airy, breathy. Any tips? You know, sometimes at first it is. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily, you know, if you were pulling chest and belting your way through there, that would be bad. But what you're doing right now may be exactly right. But Marnix, let me just suggest if you said gee 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 with a little bit of a imposition, gee gee, a little bit of a dopey sound, gee 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 gee, and then if you change that, if that's successful, then do it on go 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 go. Go, 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 go. And as indicated earlier today by the bridge, he asked if a more open vowel will get you deeper into it. So let's go from go to g. That's a little more open. G, 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 g. But be careful, it doesn't go to g, 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 g. G, 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 g. Good, 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 good. And if that holds to you could say good, 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 good. Good, 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 good. And that could get you deeper into the vocal cord and get you more presence there in the bridge. It's a process. It doesn't always happen. In fact, it rarely happens overnight. It might take you a little while. Let me see. Gianluca says, yes, that's the key. Treasure your voice by doing the correct exercises. By the way, Chuck, yours are just pure gold. Hey, thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear that. All right, everyone, it is almost quarter to the hour, and I've got to prepare for another student that's coming in this afternoon. And so I want to thank you for some great discussion today, great sharing, and thank you for being everywhere from all over the world. It's just great to have you here. And our voices are treasures, and we don't really appreciate it until, I know you appreciate your voice, but if you ever get to the point where you've damaged it or are starting to lose it, it can be depressing and discouraging and frustrating, and sadness comes over us. So this is one reason why we want to determine the vocal type, do the exercises, put in the time, be patient with yourself to find that ability to get through the bridge and get into your mixed voice so that we alleviate the damage that's occurring in too many voices in the world today. So thanks for joining me. I want to say have a great week. We'll be posting a video this week, later on in the week, and hopefully it'll be enlightening as well. So thanks very much, and great to be with you. This is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 78. And remember, you can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. Okay? Bye-bye.